We're fine. Yeah, we're fine. No,
I'm doing good.
no, guys, we're okay. We're okay.
Welcome back to the Snail Gang podcast. My name is Drew. This is Virgil, and this is episode 2. We're going to get right into it. Virgil, you want to get us started with some stuff?
Yeah, man. I know I wanted to, and you wanted to as well. Is first off, thank everybody who watched. It doesn't matter how long you watched it, quite honestly. Watched the video for how long you did. Followed us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Followed us on or subscribed on YouTube. It doesn't matter, bro. We're extremely appreciative, of it all. Especially that's somebody decided to sit down and facts, man. Sit down and shout out to the snails, man. To sit down and listen to us chit chat for an hour, about our glory days. But yeah, first things first, man. Wanted to introduce us, and then also we didn't get into this about our origin story, but definitely wanted to talk about into why we're the Snail Gang podcast in the first place. So shout out the great Nipsey Hussle, the late Nipsey Hussle, passed away, but he had the marathon always continues. And his thing was, it doesn't matter, what pace you're going at, as long as you get to your destination, you were where you're supposed to be. At that point in time, that's where you're supposed to be, and that's kind of what we embrace with our Snail Gang stuff too. Is we always would say, we'll get there eventually. Which is true, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, and kind of, do your part, work hard, you're going to get where you want to go. So that's basically, to sum up, episode 1, kind of our origin story. I think it was, me, you, Sauce, and then Noah as well. We'd always, snails come at each other. But yeah, man, that's the Snail Gang. That's kind of why this podcast is named this, and kind of the origin around us. But yeah, this episode is episode 2, and this is just basically called obsession over talent. So we're going to talk about basketball again, and kind of what drove us to kind of our success, and kind of what led to us wanting to play basketball and continue to play basketball throughout college. Do you want to talk about, Drew, I guess, when did you fall in love with basketball? Who introduced you to it, as far as you can remember?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say that was all really well said, so I appreciate that. I
Thanks, man.
definitely could not have put it as well as you did. Because in a lot of ways, like the Snail Gang is like, it's a bit of a joke, I guess, because it's just a funny name, but at the same time, like there's a deeper meaning to that, and I think that's why it was so perfect for the podcast name, because that's exactly what we're doing. Who would have thought you and I were doing a podcast? When we first met, 4 years ago or whatever it was. So we're definitely on a journey, and we're well on our way. So as far as basketball for me, I would definitely have to say my dad got me into it first. He played at Clarkston. He was, I believe he was an all-stater there back in the 80s. 6'2" point guard, shoot it a little bit. Known for his reverse layups as far as what I've been told. Played a little bit at Ferris State.
According to the legend.
Yeah, that's just what I've heard. He graduated at 6'2", 185. My dad was a little dude. Anyway, he played a little bit at Ferris, didn't end up finishing his career there, started a family, ended up having 7 kids, and I was the 5th of those. But his first son was a great athlete, my brother Jeremy, but just didn't really love basketball, didn't love football, didn't love baseball. Those are the sports my dad played. Jeremy ends up doing, track and field and soccer. So then, he tries to push the football and basketball and baseball onto my other brother and I, Adam. And it connected with us a little bit more. Adam was always a great athlete too. And and he put a lot of work in as well. But I don't think he loved the game as much as I did. I think he was more of a football guy.
Hmm.
Um, but even I played at a Class D school. A lot of times, just because I played my whole life, the game was fairly easy to me, especially as a 6'5" point guard. Like I worked hard growing up, but you don't really get challenged that much at that level, um, especially at a smaller school. But what I found was, going into my senior year, I guess, I wasn't getting a whole lot of looks from colleges, and I was like, I thought I was good enough to do that. But then I kind of realized when I started hanging around some other guys that, like, oh, they're just working on a level that I'm not. Um, and like I was 6'5", like I said, a 6'5" point guard, and I couldn't dunk, and I was going into my senior year. Like, not that like I didn't dunk or like I couldn't dunk on people, like I legitimately could not dunk the basketball. So that whole summer, I was just like, all right, like I need to get in the gym, I need to lift and like work on my jumping. And I think that alone changed basketball for me a lot because it took me from like you don't think of it as a significant thing. Like yeah, dunking is still just 2 points, but for me to put in the work to be able to achieve that, and just seeing the fruits of that and how it like helped me, get some college offers and stuff because they see the athleticism and that's something they didn't see the year
Hmm.
before. That was a big jump for me, and it made me kind of become a bit more obsessed with the process of growing as a basketball player, growing as an athlete, um, and how I could carry that over in other parts of my life as well. I guess that kind of connects with the Snail Gang as well.
Yeah.
But I guess that's really where it started for me. And then I ended up playing, 6 years at Rochester. And a lot of that is because my high school coach went to Rochester, so I kind of had a connection there as well. He knew Coach P a bit. He played for Garth, um,
Okay.
so we had a couple connections there, and it ended up being a good fit for me as a half hour from home. And yeah, like you said, like, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a bit more. From there, once I got into college, just the obsession for the game and growing as a player became enhanced because I was so far behind. Um,
Yeah.
like even with that athletic work into my senior year of high school, you get to the college level and it's completely different. I'm not playing Class D, kids anymore. I'm playing,
Sometimes you're
legit
playing
grown
grown
men.
men.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I get that too in like Los, Angelos Griffith, and Jalen were there, and they were just, they were grown men, and they were so good, and they were just
Yeah.
leading our team. Well, even like Paris, and Justin Nafso was there. I don't know if you know any of those guys. You know Paris.
I know.
Um,
I know Paris. I know Justin. I think I follow him on like Instagram or something like that.
yeah,
So I know
yeah,
of him. I haven't met him, but
yeah,
um, yeah. Talk
yeah, and
about. I
that's
guess for. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. Go ahead.
I was gonna say talk about. So you obviously, not that there's a sense of entitlement or anything. I wouldn't say like that, but for you, you're at a Class D school. You're 6'5". You're obviously receiving like I know you talked about like why am I not getting the looks that other people are getting. So you're
Hmm.
6'5", you're obviously getting like all conference awards. You're obviously
Yeah.
recognized like in your conference a little bit. How did that like kind of, you know, did that kind of go into like your why am I not getting, looks when I'm the best kid, in
Oh
my
yeah.
conference, whatever, stuff like that. Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so my junior year, we had another kid on my team who was a much better scorer than I was. But I had
Hmm.
some people like within the school who would tell me like, "Hey, we think you're a better player. Like you just don't even know it yet." Um, and it was just he scored more than I did. I was always a pass first kind of guy, but I think I averaged like 12 points and 8 assists or something like that my junior year. And like that's not flashy numbers, especially in Class D. But that's when I kind of realized like those kind of things do matter, though. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like you can't just be this passive guy. Just because you're good doesn't mean you're going to get offers. Like you have to actually put up those numbers. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like you said, like I was getting the all league stuff because the Catholic League. Like I was getting those awards, and my team was good, and I was winning. Like my junior year, we went 20-0, and then we didn't lose until the semifinal game. So I was thinking like my team's winning. Like I'm doing what I need to do for us to win. Up until the
Yeah.
second to last game of the year. Um, so like I feel like that should be worth something, um, and I think it is, but it wasn't worth like getting those kind of offers. You know what I mean? Because they don't necessarily care if you're winning if you're
Hmm.
just on a good team. You know, you got
Yeah.
to put up numbers, and you got to show that you can play at that next level. So that's definitely what into
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I just knew a little bit about, you obviously playing at the Breslin. We had obviously talked about that, which
Hmm.
was any high school kid's dream in the state of Michigan was to go there and play. Hopefully, everybody's goal is obviously to go there, drop 30, get a pick up an offer from Tavizo. I mean, that's the goal
Yeah.
at the end of that's the goal at the end of the day. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, man. I mean, obviously, I just wanted that for context for the
Yeah.
audience. I knew a lot of that story just from conversations we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, bro. I mean, you and I think our journeys are pretty much similar, and which
Hmm.
is probably a good reason why we met.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had a different route, but um, grew up playing basketball. I obviously have three younger brothers, so my dad introduced me to basketball as well, and it was basketball and football. That's what we always played. I didn't like football growing up because I don't like getting hit. Still don't.
Yeah.
But my brothers loved it, but they played basketball, as well. So I played football, and then they played basketball. But I played, obviously started or played varsity my junior year. Was like sixth, seventh man, or made varsity my sophomore year, sixth, seventh man, and then junior year comes around. I'm starting now, pick up all conference like second team or something like that, which feels great. Or maybe it was honorable mention. Feels great. And then the next year, senior year, and then we win districts that year. And then the next year, I was on the all area team, for the local or the dream team they called it. Got that for football and basketball. So I'm like, what is like going on? Like it's my senior year. My team had made it to the Elite Eight, so we were a game away from going to the Breslin our senior year. I'm like, we have a good team. I'm doing everything I need to do, averaging like just around 10 points, but I'm grabbing a bunch of rebounds, getting a
Hmm.
bunch of assists. I'm playing like the two or the three that year. So a little
Hmm.
out of maybe not out of position, but we had like a big team. Just my senior year. So Peyton, he was like the man at our
Yeah.
school. It was kind of like the same situation where you know Peyton was just like a better scorer than I was, which was just the
Yeah.
reality. He averaged like 18, and then we had but he was 6 foot. So then our shooting guard that year was like 6'3". I'm coming in at like 6'4.5" as our small forward, and then we had like a 6'7" power forward, and then like a 6'7" center. My senior year, so we're like a huge high school team,
Yeah.
winning games, make it to the Elite Eight, and I'm just like, what's going on? Why am I not picking offers up? And I think a little bit of it, which differs from our situation is, you know, I just grades were a factor for me, academics a little bit.
Hmm.
I just wanted to be a basketball player, and didn't really care as much about academics, which came back and hurt me. So instead of going, the D2 or NAI route, right away, I went junior college, and kind of was very much humbled. At my first, practice, just like you talked about, you go into the gym and you think you're going to be playing against other high school kids, and
Yeah.
especially at the junior college level, some of these guys, are out for 3 years and come back. So I'm playing
Yeah.
against like grown men, bro, like um, getting pushed around, and then eventually, as you kind of, I think with anyone, but especially, maybe me or you more so, when you kind of get comfortable in an environment, you can kind of adapt pretty easy. So
Yeah.
after, it took me, half a season, but I was, kind of performing at what I thought was good enough. Made, the freshman team for the conference. And then my sophomore year, I made, second team and then first team all defense,
Yeah.
which was a great honor to have. But I was still just winning games, and didn't really put any, outside work into it. Um, but I think that, when a switch officially, came for me is when I kind of was like, I went and played at a Gus Macker with a teammate, and I was doing things that I just didn't do, part of our college team.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, bro? Coach might have been holding you back, and that stuck with me because it's like, man, like I could really be doing this like on a court because I know I'm capable, and I'm just not because I'm not putting in the work. One, so I don't feel comfortable taking that shot, and
Hmm.
two, I haven't proven myself to coach yet that I can do this, time and
Yeah.
time again. So I remember the summer before I officially went to Graceland. This is kind of where the work and obsession comes in. I was working out, doing 2 a days, lifted, and then playing basketball, doing anything. Like I was joining men's leagues, working out with my boy. You met Will. He came up to Rochester one time.
Yep.
Shout out
Yep.
Will. He
Yeah, he's
trained
dope.
me for 2 summers, free of charge. He just wanted to see me succeed, which was
Wow.
dope. And I think that's a huge part of anybody wanting to develop. I'm sure there's people in your life as well who did things for you without
Hmm.
charging you. They just wanted to see you win. And I think
Yeah.
that goes a long way to show. And his biggest thing was he would say like, you're better than what you think you are, and I'm waiting for you to see how good you are so you can actually be that good. And I think
Yeah.
that when you flip that switch in your mind and you go, oh, like I actually can be that good. Because me and you have had this discussion. I'm sorry, I'm veering
Yeah.
off topic, but you and I have had this discussion our last year about how I always thought you were a better basketball player than me. I said it all the time. I still think that's true. I think you do a lot of things on the court. I think the only difference between our two games is I just was like, I want to go have that bucket. I'm going to shoot it. Whereas you were like, maybe that's not my role. And I think
Yep.
that it comes from, just like I want you to speak on this, and then I'll speak on what I think that is, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah, I thought you were making a good point too. It's just I think that's a very like really important for kids coming into college too, because one of my biggest problems, and I think it remained a problem for me my whole career, was it wasn't necessarily a lack of confidence, but a lack of assertiveness, I guess. Um, like if
Mm-hmm.
we were playing in an open gym, I would go get a bucket whenever I wanted, but as soon as it came game time, I was like, even the slightest second thought of like, is coach okay with this shot, or is coach okay with me going one on one? If you even
Mm-hmm.
have the slightest second thought about it, you're either not going to do it or you're not going to go all in on it, and you can't be halfway in a college basketball game. You know what I mean? Unless you're just leaps
No.
and bounds better than the person who's guarding you, and that's rarely the case when you're at a level. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was a big problem for me pretty much my whole career. You know, I was always a solid player. I think people liked playing with me for that reason. I moved the ball, I played defense. I I would get buckets at times, but like pretty much every game I scored 9 points. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like I just averaged 9 points
Mm-hmm.
because I had great games, I had bad games. Like I just scored 9 points every single game because that's just kind of what I internally thought was expected of me. When there was probably a bit more I could offer, and I just never fully fulfilled that. And that's upsetting in a lot of ways, but a lot of that too is just you know you can't blame anyone but yourself. I think a lot of people will turn and look at coach or they'll look at the other players on their team. But I think you guys, for the most part, like all of you just wanted me to shoot more. You guys all wanted me to be that guy and I just didn't do it. So I don't really have anyone else to blame but myself. Um, but yeah, I think that's hard in a lot of ways. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. No, what I was gonna say was, in terms of where I thought you were, I do think it's all. I think that 100% of that is mental.
Yeah.
I think it. So I don't want to keep bringing up Grayson, but I have to.
Hmm.
So our first 2 games before we even played you guys, um, or our first game we played of the season was our season opener. It was like homecoming week. So we had like a football game, soccer game, and then basketball game like all that weekend. Um,
Hmm.
and we're playing, and literally. I'm not joking, Drew. I was the same player I was at the end of the year as I was at the beginning of the year. I had done all the work. I had been in the gym all summer, and we went into the game, and I had 2 points at half. which for the work I had put in, for all the sacrifices I'd made, for the shots I'd put up, the reps I had taken was not acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And we were down 15 at half. The other team was laughing at us. I was sick to my stomach. So I made it a mission of mine for the second half to come out. I ended up scoring 24 points in the second half, which just goes to show is you're still that player. It's just your mindset has to change. So from
Yeah.
then on, like forward, I was averaging like 20 points a game because I was like, I'm our number one option. If I'm not scoring, nobody else will.
Yep.
And I think for you, and this is just me, as an outsider looking in, of course, I think there was never that like it's your show now type
Yeah.
of here are the
Mm-hmm.
keys to the gym, like do what you want, like because at Grayson I had that. Like if I took a bad shot, I knew I wasn't coming out because if I don't score, nobody like and that's not to say I was the only one scoring, but it's like I was a big part of what we were doing, so I needed to be
Mm-hmm.
in the game. So
Yep.
I came with that same mindset and that same kind of I guess tenaciousness when I came to
Yeah.
Rochester, but it took me a second. I will, say that I didn't do it right away in practice because obviously my game and how I've always played has been team first. So I'd make the right pass, grab rebound, score. And I remember Coach P and Coach Rice like pulling me aside and they're like, "We need you to do what you were doing." And I think some of you
Yeah.
guys as well were like, "We need you to do what you were doing at Graceland to help us." And that's when
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like these guys feel comfortable with me doing this. But for you, I think, you were a freshman, and you just had older guys who were playing above you. I'm pretty sure you played your freshman year and then you redshirted your sophomore, correct?
I played my first 2 years, so I played freshman,
Okay.
sophomore year, and then I tore my hip like halfway through my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So I ended up I
Okay.
played the rest of the year because it wasn't like a season-ending thing, um, but it was just a injury that lingered basically. So I finished out that
Yeah.
year, and then I ended up getting surgery that summer. Sat out my third year, and then played 3 more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for you, you come in, you're a freshman. Obviously, unless you're the man, you're not getting the keys to the gym. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Um, and then moving forward, I think it became kind of Armand's thing,
Yep.
where it was kind of his his show, and then after he leaves, I remember even it's actually funny that we're talking about this because I remember when I had come, I was talking to AJ because I had played AJ in junior college. You know this, other people might
Mm-hmm.
not, but me and AJ had played against each other. AJ was our teammate for context, but he was we played against each other in junior college. So he comes and he's like, and I'm like kind of getting like the, like the here's this is your team kind of whatever. And he goes, "Bro, why'd you have to come here? Like it was finally my turn to like start like taking over the team." And I'm like, bro, it wasn't my intention to come do this. I just wanted, obviously a better place to play. But it's funny because then I ended up coming. So then it still wasn't. But I for me, I think that it was always a thing where I'm like, I'm just better than the guy in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I know this, and I'm gonna just show everybody else so they know it too.
Yeah.
And like that was the mindset I had. Not even like, oh, I want to go score a bunch of points. I just wanted to prove to that person,
Yeah.
myself, Coach P, like anybody who was watching, like I'm better than him, and like I don't want you to be like, oh, like this was a close game, like they're actually, pretty even, like we could take anyone. I wanted everybody to be like, we need this type of guy on our team, and I think
Yeah.
that was part of the reason that like drove me so hard, to play a certain type. Was there? I guess for you, I guess my question for you was there any like when you I mean you're talking like you only scored 9 points a game, which isn't true, but was
It
there
is true. It's literally true. I averaged 9 points.
Drew, you averaged
I'm
nine
not
points,
kidding.
but you didn't just score 9 points. You didn't just score 9 points every game.
If you ask Coach Rice, he will tell you they looked at the score sheet every game and it was like, oh, Drew gave us 9 points again. But it was like I scored 9 points almost every game. I mean, I scored less
Almost
than
every
that
game.
sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
not
But
every game,
sometimes you
but
scored way more. But sometimes you
very
scored way more.
not very often. I had like what, three
we're not
20
gonna
point
get
games
into
on my career.
we're not gonna get into this. But what I will say is there were games where you. I guess what drove you besides the work, besides wanting to what like were you? Because for me, I wanted to prove that my mom like
Yeah.
I guess okay. So let me give you context. So when I was in sixth grade, I still remember to this day because it was like a one of those pivotal things that kind of you just remember. We were sitting in the parking lot with my mom. My grandma had to go into the store, so it's me and my brothers. My mom basically looked at us and said, "Hey, fellas, like I'm just not going to be able to pay for college, so you guys are going to have to get a scholarship, and you're a
Hmm.
sixth grader." So from then on forward, I knew like whatever I did, I had to be good at it. So
Yeah.
for me, playing basketball, I wanted to prove I was the best because I had to prove to a coach that I
Yeah.
deserved a scholarship spot or that I deserved, to come to your school for free and play basketball.
Yeah.
So, and then after I got a scholarship, it became proven to myself that I could do this because my goal was to play overseas and play professional basketball or,
Yeah.
just play. So to me, it was always prove, 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 prove.
Hmm.
And I think that's what drove me. Because like you said last episode, I didn't need a reason to go out there and play good because I already had one. Like I had to prove to somebody that I was better than somebody else.
Yeah.
So for you, was there anything like that? Were you ever like, what? I mean, what was your reason you loved playing basketball? What was the reason you competed at such a high level and with energy and everything every game?
That's a that's a good question. And
Thanks, man. I appreciate
it's
that.
it's clearly different for every person too. And
Yeah.
it is funny that you said it the way you did. Not to get off, I'm going to answer the question, but it is funny that you
Bye.
the way you played sometimes. It was like this dude doesn't know I'm better than him yet, and he's going to find out.
Yeah.
That is clearly like how you
Yeah.
played, and it was hilarious. Because you would bully people a lot, and for that reason alone,
Yeah.
like not even because it was personal, really. Like it's not like you hate the guy, but like you played as if you hated the person guarding you. Like I need to
Yeah.
embarrass him because he doesn't know yet. Um,
Yeah.
and it was
Seriously.
very evident the way you played. But yeah, and also like yeah, like when I first got there, Los was the guy, Jalen was the guy. That next year was kind of Justin's team, but I had a pretty big role on that team as a three man. But then I get hurt. I come back that next year, and like right away, Armand is the guy, and everyone knows it. And then that was for the next 2 years, and then after that is when you came in, and AJ was obviously there too. He's a big time scorer. Um,
Huge time.
so yeah, it was never. It always to me felt like the best thing I could do for the team was facilitate because I didn't think we had that type of player outside of me. You know what I mean? Like you were a good passer, AJ was
Hmm.
a good passer, but it's not what you guys did best. It's not what we needed you to do. So I felt like the
Hmm.
best thing I could do for the team was facilitate most of the time. Um, and sure, I left like some points on the table and probably could have helped us more if I was more aggressive shooting the ball. Um, but I didn't always feel like that was the best move. And maybe that's just an excuse for me to play soft. I don't know, but that's just how I've always thought about it.
Yeah.
But as far as you asked me like what drove me, um, and I don't think that it was like trying to prove anything to anyone really, like how you explained it was for you. Um, I can't really explain it outside of just like I loved the game and I loved like winning. You know what I mean? Like I always worked so hard to like be better. And whether that worked a bunch for me or not, like I just loved that whole process. I like when we won that cornerstone game, like there's not many times in my life where I was much as happy as that. You know what I mean? And like to 99% of the people in the world, you want a NAIA conference champion,
Yeah.
like regular season championship. You know what I mean? Like who cares? But still, I think about that moment and like because it's just all that stuff was worth it. Just working for something and achieving it. I think that was the biggest thing for me was what can I do to help us win something because I know that feeling is that good. Um, that's really the only thing I can explain. Just like how can I help these guys? How can I help us be in the best position possible to win? And I feel like that's really the biggest thing that kind of motivated me because it clearly wasn't getting my number retired because that wasn't happening.
Yeah. No, I think that, and I guess we've never really had this discussion because why would we? But I think it's now that you say that, I think that that makes sense. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
see now why you play the way you do because I remember there'd be times where you'd be in the paint and you try to like make a pass, and I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, if you get anywhere in here, just go up. Like I can get the rebound for you if you miss, but just score. And you would always try to pass. I'm like, bro, like just like it, because to me, like I love to pass too, but like I love to score more
Yeah,
because
I would.
that's what's gonna get on the board.
I'm
Yeah,
not kidding. Outside of a dunk and like maybe like a step back three or something,
yeah,
there's not. I would much rather like get an assist than hit
hmm,
a layup or hit an open shot or something. Like I much prefer a good pass over a good bucket.
yeah,
Like that's just how I've
yeah.
always been.
See,
But like I told you
not
in the
me.
past, like I'm a point guard at heart. Like that's what I was all
Yeah,
through high
you
school.
you did
That's what
say that.
that's what I wanted to play in college, and I just never really fully transitioned into that role for whatever reason. Um, but yeah, that's certainly where my heart is like passing the ball, facilitating, being a point guard.
No, absolutely. And I think that, for each person, I think that's a good question, that I asked, not to toot my own horn, but I think it did
Mm-hmm.
open up, a nice little segue is I guess I didn't realize that each person's like kind of reason is different. Like my reason for playing showed on why I played the way I did. Your reason for playing showed on the reason why you played the way you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, obviously there's people who have similar, um, goals as to us. Like, there's people who really wanted to win, and then there's people who wanted to prove something, maybe not to just themselves, but other people. About different things that have the same journey as us and can kind of relate to what we're saying. But no, that was awesome, man. I think that was very well said, and you answered the question. But talk about,
Thank you.
I guess, from your perspective, talk about the transition into like the real world and working
Mm.
now, because I remember after our last game, like we had just got our butts whooped at
Mm-hmm.
Lord's, or not, yeah, it was Lord's.
Yeah.
um and your grandpa goes, enjoy this, you're starting work on Monday, and I'm like Jesus.
I literally did
Like,
too. I started full time. I started a full time job
no.
3 days later. That was
Yeah,
is brutal. But yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like just carrying over. Like I mean, there's so many things to talk about with this. Just after an athlete, being an athlete, and that kind of dedication. Like, how do you carry that sort of commitment over to a job? And I think the biggest struggle that I've had so far is finding something that I want to put that much dedication into. You know what I mean? Like I started off as an insurance
Hmm.
salesman because my dad owns an insurance company, as you know. Um, and my initial thought was like, all right, I'm just going to pour all that energy into this. I'm going to, work my butt off, get a bunch of sales, go from there. But then I found really quickly that I hated sales and I hated selling insurance.
Yep.
So it's like, now like I don't want to put my time into that. And then if you don't really enjoy your job and you're not dedicating yourself to something like that, what do you put that kind of effort toward? And if it's nothing, I think that's where especially former athletes really struggle. And that's where I struggled for a long time and still struggle to quite a bit. Is just finding what to put that effort toward. Um, because if you're not working towards anything, you're stagnant, and it's not a good feeling.
You feel
Um,
stuck. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and that's
Yeah.
that's that's been the
Because I
biggest thing for
remember.
me.
No, and I think that's huge because you talk about, and it's not only that. I mean, and I want you to answer this question as well. So you're transitioning, and you're trying to figure out, um, obviously what to do next, what to pour all your energy, your hard work, your time in, and you want to do something that you love, but you can't do it because, or you can do it, but you have to figure out what it is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Talk about even your, I guess, so you're trying to figure all this out, but now you have to figure out, I guess, a new sense of identity, because for what, 20, 23, 24 years you were
Yeah.
Andrew the basketball player,
Yep.
and now you're not. So I mean, talk about that. Like even dealing with, I guess, a new form of identity and trying to figure out. I guess not. It sounds depressing if you say self, but I guess that's the realization. But like
Oh
like
yeah.
a new realization of kind of who you are.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm definitely want to spin that back on you and hear your perspective on this also,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's been a huge challenge, obviously, and I was very lucky, and not to use this as a complete cop out, but um, I was lucky that I was dating Maddie for a long time, and a big part of my commitment went into being a good husband. You know what I mean? Like we just got married.
Yeah,
How do I make myself the best boyfriend, fiance, and now husband to her? Um, that I can be. And that's been a big part of the identity shift where we were dating while I was playing, and obviously she was still a big part of my life. But we had multiple conversations while I was playing that I was like, this is the biggest thing to me. You know what I mean? Like my biggest focus is going to be basketball. And she knew that. And she was really good about it. But as soon as I'm done, it's, you know, making that switch over. And that part was easy. That part was like, all right, now my life's focus needs to be on making this as good as I can. And then from there, it's filling in the space. Um, and that's been, for me, a lot of the stuff has been after work stuff, like the TikTok stuff that I do, and working on videos, trying to learn more about videography and style, like other interests that I have, but even with that, if you're not growing with it, it still feels like, what are you doing it for? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of
hmm
people can just have hobbies. And we talked about this the last episode too. Like a lot of people can just have something and do it for the fun of it. But I think you're a lot like me, where when I was doing the TikTok stuff, when I wasn't growing and getting better at it, I was like, what is this all for? It was just like basketball,
yeah,
like when I wasn't
yeah,
winning, it doesn't mean like I didn't care about how hard I worked or that I put in the time. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't
yeah,
paying
yeah,
off,
yeah.
I didn't care. It just felt like a loser all the time. And that part is really hard for me now, is because winning is hard to quantify in the real world than it is in
hmm
basketball. You can have a winning record, or you can play good in a game and you see that win. In the real world now with work, it's like, I mean, I did my job, I guess, but it's harder to quantify you actually doing something and it paying off. You know what I mean?
Dang. That was dang, Drew. That was
I didn't.
that was deep. Dang,
I didn't mean that.
dang, dang.
I don't
That
know.
was deep. Hey,
I
we're
didn't.
clipping that.
Just clip it.
But um, no, that's actually real. I guess
Yeah.
when you put it in that perspective, no, that's real. And just to, I guess we're circling back now, just on me. Um, yeah, I had a tough time um playing and kind of figuring out what to do after basketball because like you said, we're in the same boat. We're
Mm,
Virgil and Andrew, the basketball player. Like that's what people have just known me as my whole life. Like I've been a basketball player, and
hmm
I guess it was a little different for me, just in regards to because I had broken my foot, so I didn't even
Yeah.
get the chance to really finish and do what I wanted to. I mean, my goal was always to, um, play basketball and then just go play overseas. Like
hmm
I'm good enough. I know I can. And I
Yeah.
broke my foot, and it just had me like questioning everything. Not to say that because I broke my foot I can't play anymore, but it's just I'm healed up now. I obviously can play now, but it's just the understanding. I remember having a conversation with your dad. He wanted me to, obviously come work for the insurance agency, and I was really having you know, not to get too deep here, but I was really having a tough time just in general with like figuring out life and like what I was gonna do because it's scary
hmm
transitioning and like starting anew and trying to
Yep.
figure out who you are and what you want to do and trying to find that sense of you know who am I, where do I belong, now that I'm not a basketball player anymore. And that's not to say I'm not still working on it, because I still don't know you
Yeah.
know what I wanted to, or but I, like you, worked a sales job, did some insurance, and I just hated it.
Mm.
I hated it. I
It's
hated going to
brutal.
work. I hated driving. I hated talking to people all day. And like you said, like they try to, at least at my office is a big corporate office, and they try to, you know, surround you with a bunch of other athletes so you feel like you're competing. And it's like it just doesn't feel the same. Like I don't get that same sense of team. I don't get that same sense of winning. I don't get
Hmm.
that same sense of you just don't get the same sense of, you know, where you were as an athlete. And I think that, you know, not only us, but a lot of athletes, you know, tend to struggle after, you know, that first year, because especially in my case, you're not around, you know, necessarily your friends, and you can't go hang out with your friends and, you know,
Hmm.
just goof off. Like things get serious now. So you know, I was reading an article one time, they were talking about, you know, the percentage of student athletes who like have, you know, mental problems after college because they're not around their friends. They don't get to hang out anymore. They're, you know, not competing. They're not doing anything. Because like you look back on it, and I can't tell you about certain stuff we did on the court or
Hmm.
what we did, you know, during this play, or I can tell you about
Yeah.
like when we won the championship, but I can tell you about what we did in, you know, Ohio when we went there. The time
Yeah.
Anthony broke the mirror in the hotel, the hotel weight room. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that where you're hanging out with your teammates and you're having like a good time. Um, so I don't know, but
Yeah, I think
if you're a
that's an
student athlete out
underrated part
there,
of it. Yeah, like the community part is a big deal too. And I think just to kind of piggyback off what you said, I think depression. Um, Not that, I mean, I know that's a pretty heavy word, and I know not
yeah,
everyone necessarily experiences that. Um, but I think it's so common right after, because there is just this lost identity and this loss of community, and so many other things. And I feel like if I wasn't living with Maddie right after I got done playing, like I would have really struggled, because I struggled anyway. When I was in that job, like it was really tough for me. Um, Not to like try to get sympathy or anything. I'm just saying like it is
yeah,
it's a hard thing to go through, and um, I think if I didn't have her, it would have been a whole lot worse too. Um, so it's not a surprise to me at all that a lot of athletes struggle with that right after getting done playing, especially if they were committed athletes. You know what I mean? If they really worked
yeah.
for things, you know.
If you really loved it, and to any athletes out there who are listening, um, what I would suggest is find a hobby.
Yeah, yeah. We're
Find
not trying to
find
scare
something that you,
people.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
be
Like
okay.
please continue to play your sport. You're gonna live, but
Yeah,
like find a hobby or something, you know, you enjoy doing outside of your sport, you know, whether it be going for walks, you know, and you know, another thing that I really missed is going to the movie theater every Wednesday with you guys,
yep.
like after like during so for context, the movie theater close to our school would have like $5 movies on Wednesdays. So you
Hmm.
go there, you can get like a movie for $5,
Free
and then
popcorn.
you could get like free popcorn as well. And then if
Hmm.
you had like you'd pay like $2 extra and get like a large. So
Yep.
like we do that every Wednesday, and it's like the season ended and everybody's got a job. You know, Sauce moves. You know, here
Hmm.
I move here. You move in with Maddie. Noah's doing his thing. And we lose that in that regard. I think that's probably another thing that goes into, you know, student athletes, and that is you. It seems like things just drop. Like
Yeah.
the real world hits, and like everything you knew in college, that feels like the real world because you're in it at that moment. And when
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
out of it, everything you knew, the freedom, the it was a little bit more relaxed. You didn't really have, you know, significant bills to pay, things like
Yeah.
that. So you get into the real world, and things start coming at you, and it's like,
Yeah.
dang, I can't even go hang out with my bros on Wednesdays and go watch a movie anymore. What the hell's going
Yeah.
on?
And I
But
think that's the thing that's really hard. It's not really the work. Like yeah, you got to start going to work because you got to pay bills and stuff. And like it's not the actual work that's hard. It's the missing out on everything else. It's the lack of
mm-hmm.
community, the lack of freedom. It's all that stuff that really is tough. And that's the stuff I wasn't prepared for, because people said like, "Oh, it's gonna be tough when you graduate. You're gonna have to start working." And I always thought like, yeah, I'm fine. Like I can work. You know what I mean? Like that's never been a problem for me. I worked through all the
Yeah, work's
summers and stuff.
easy.
Yeah. That's what shocked me was it wasn't the work that was hard at all, just like I wasn't expecting it to be. It's everything else that you lose. That's really what it was. And again,
Everything else that you lose, man.
we're not trying to be too down. We're not trying to scare people
No,
who are
yeah, yeah,
student
yeah.
athletes.
We're fine. Yeah, we're fine. No,
I'm
no,
doing
no,
good.
no, guys, we're okay. We're okay. Don't call anyone. We're good. We're good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a transition and it can be tough, but it's yeah, it makes you realize how awesome those times were too, which is a good thing.
Good thing, man. They always.
Yeah.
What did Andy say in the office, man? I wish somebody would have told me the good old. I wish somebody would have told me I was in the good old days when I was in the good old days,
Mm,
and that's real, man. You look
yeah.
back and you're just like bus rides, like team lunches at freaking Crackle Barrel, bro.
Yeah.
Team drives, our flight down to Florida, all that stuff, man. You dang, now I'm getting sad. Oh
Yeah.
shoot.
You never really realize you're on the journey the whole time, and that's the snail gang.
Okay, that's episode number 2. We're cutting it there. Yeah, it's been real. It's been
Well, we are
real.
out of time too.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
good
your
spot to end
boy.
it.
Yeah, it's a great spot. It's your boy Verge. It's your boy Vanilla Ice.
Mm.
The slender man, white man, Drew, 6'5". Come on, gang, Drew. But it's been real, y'all. We're gonna make like a trampoline and bounce.
Mm.
Peace out.
We'll try to be back next week. If not, I mean, we got
No
Christmas coming
promises.
up. Yeah, we'll definitely be recording a whole lot
Maybe
soon. So
maybe we'll give you guys a holiday present. I don't bank on it. Don't bank on it. If you guys want it, ask Santa. If you guys want it, ask Santa. I mean, maybe this is what we can do.
if you watch the whole thing, we appreciate you. These are already a
100%.
ton of fun to make. So, gosh, 45 minutes flies by. That's crazy.
Screams by, bro. When you're having fun, when you're just chatting,
Hmm.
you're just chit chatting.
Yeah, we'll have a lot more to get into next time too, like that Shohei Ohtani
Yes.
thing. We got college football stuff coming up. Like we got
Isn't that
sports
nuts?
stuff. Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
Isn't
And the
that-
Pistons still stink.
You know what? Actually, 19 in a row. If you're a young person and you're watching this right now, pick up a baseball bat right now. Pick up a baseball bat. You know what? The episode's not done. We're gonna actually get into that right now. If you're a young kid and you're watching this episode 2 right now of the Still Game podcast, put down the football, put down the basketball, and go pick up a baseball bat. This man just made 100 and wait.
700 million
No,
in 7 years.
He made 700 million for 10 years.
Yeah, 7 years.
For the next 10 years. Let that sink in. Do the math. You do the math right now and tell me how much he's making a year.
Me?
No. I'm saying whoever's listening. You do.
Yeah.
You do.
I don't want to do
You
it.
do
Yeah,
the
yeah.
math right now.
You're yelling at me. I was like,
No.
yeah. Write it in the comments if you guys can do that math. There we go.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Talk in the comments a little bit. But no, actually, somebody in the comments in one of the videos was saying, "Oh my God, is that the panda poppies?" And I was like, "Guys, we're not gonna get that started. The panda poppies. We're not gonna get that started. Don't check the comments. It was there. I think I may have deleted it. Don't check the comments. Don't check the comments."
Yeah, and we want to start. Tell them about the segment we want to start doing. The
Yes.
walk
Okay.
talks.
The segment we want to start doing is going to be called Walk Talk. So a group of snails is called a walk. So if you guys have any questions, want anything answered, just want to say hello, send us in some tweets, some funny stuff, any dilemmas you're having going on, send that in. We'll have a little segment that will get started once people start sending some stuff in called Walk Talk, where we'll just answer some questions, talk about some funny stuff, make it a little fun. We want to get you guys engaged in kind of what we're doing. so this thing continues to grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna pretty much be it for us on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thank you to everybody who's watched, this far if you have, and thank you to everybody who's watched, the last episode as well. Drew, you
Yeah.
want to say anything?
No, you about summed it up. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you,
Cool.
Verge.
All right, guys. Yeah, man. Peace
All right,
out.
Snow Gang.
Okay.